So good.
Hello once again, March Caprice audience. It's me, the ever-faithful Mistress Dove, the gal with the enormous Keyblade collection. For the past 4 years, I've made a point to put out at least one Kingdom Hearts related video on the channel a year. Specifically in March, as March 28th is both the anniversary of Kingdom Hearts as well as my birthday. Last year, I presented an emotionally driven thesis on Xion as I reflected on the character and compared her story to that of the trans experience. Some of you watching this video may recall that one if you were tuning into the March Caprice around this time last year. I also made a video about Kairi before that, highlighting why I believe she's an amazing character by analyzing her story while also shining a light on various bad faith quote-unquote critique that people have made against her over the years. I highly recommend watching both of those videos after this one, if you haven't seen them already, as I'm incredibly proud of both of them. The Kairi video, in fact, still stands as my favorite video that I've ever made. Just, you know, don't be alarmed if I look a little different in them. Those videos were made before the redesign, so just don't worry about that. Now, for today, I want to dive into another character, and this time it's another member of the Destiny trio. More specifically, I want to dive into his story of manipulation, of being made into a tool to those with unsavory desires, and how he broke free from their control, how he wrestled with the guilt and shame that festered within his heart afterwards, and how he came out of the other end stronger than before. So let's talk about the Arbiter of the Dawn himself, the trusted friend of Sora and Kairi, and the survivor of the grasp of darkness, the one and only Riku.
I'm not afraid of the darkness.
You're better off without that wretched boy.
Tell me, what can I do?
Now, child, it's time you awakened that power.
No! You won't use me for this!
I'm no one, just a castaway from the darkness.
Between the road to light and the road to darkness.
Neither suits me. I'm taking the middle road. It's the road to dawn.
Kingdom Hearts, as a series, starts with our main three characters residing on Destiny Islands alongside their other friends. The three important for this discussion are the protagonist, Sora, absolute best girl and my GOAT, Kairi, and the subject of today's video, the aforementioned Riku. Destiny Islands itself is presented as an eternal summer-like paradise of sorts. Beautiful blue skies and warm sunlight accenting clean ocean waves, picturesque beaches, an endless fun time with friends and family that make up the day-to-day of our heroes. Despite the seeming paradise, our trio are building a raft together in hopes of seeing other worlds. Spun off from Kairi's being from another world, as well as Riku's own general curiosity and a desire to escape the routine that his life has found itself in. Curiosity and a desire for change are natural feelings, especially for young teenagers such as our leads. But I would like you all to put a pin in Riku's feelings specifically, as I will be returning to them in but a moment. You all know the story. Darkness falls upon Destiny Islands and our heroes are all swept away from the sandy shores they've always known, and thrust into things they couldn't have possibly imagined before. And while Sora finds new friends on his journey, Riku finds something far more upsetting. Where Sora found familiar guidance in Donald and Goofy, Riku instead found himself under the wing of Maleficent and eventually the influence of one Ansem, Seeker of Darkness. It's clear to anyone during the story of KH1 that Maleficent does not genuinely care about Riku, but rather, she sees him as a means to an end, which is initially how Donald, and to a lesser extent Goofy, see Sora at the start of their journey with him. But while Donald and Goofy over time grow to genuinely care about Sora, which is put to the test and thus proven when they choose Sora over their duty to King Mickey's mission, Riku never gets a similar moment with Maleficent, because she doesn't care. And hell, the difference is accented in how they treat their respective boys. When Sora's upset early on after meeting Donald and Goofy, the two of them take a moment to try and comfort him. They aren't perfect at it, but they still try despite the fact that Sora's mood isn't important to their mission. Meanwhile, when Riku is openly upset and distrusting of Maleficent, all she does is try to manipulate him, to keep him under her thumb, decorating her words and niceties to mask her sinister intent. Like when Riku starts to show signs of slipping from her control, she tries to regain his trust by saying he's like a son to her, and how she only wants him to be happy. We also see Maleficent actively driving a wedge between Riku and Sora, because she knows that not only is Sora a threat to her plans, but he's also someone who could pull Riku away from her if allowed that opportunity. To not mince words and to stop burying the lead, Maleficent is grooming Riku, and we see her engage in the exact same tactics of groomers in order to control him. She speaks to him and does things in an effort to gain his trust so he's more willing to do her bidding, such as gathering the princesses of heart, as well as separating him from people in his life that could help him get away from her. Groomers and manipulators, once gaining a bond of trust with their victims, will often try to pull them away from friends and family in an effort to make their victims dependent on them. Groomers want their victims isolated and dependent, so they're more vulnerable to whatever their desires are, and, in Maleficent's case, what she wants is to nurture the darkness within Riku so he's the perfect little puppet for her. And yes, obviously Maleficent's grooming of Riku isn't exactly in line with how people typically think of the phrase, but grooming isn't always sexual, and I feel it's important to remember that. Not just in the context of my analysis here today, but also just in general. Maleficent and Ansem, Seeker of Darkness, both take advantage of a young boy's curiosity and desire for change, as well as his own personal insecurities, all to satisfy their own ends, and that's upsetting regardless of what those ends are. To make matters worse, by the time Riku has realized what's happening, it's too late, and his darkness has grown just enough to leave him wide open for Ansem to take full control. He does have enough will to buy Kairi and 2 out of the 3 half-pints time to escape post-Sora Danteing himself, but that doesn't take away from how much control Ansem gains over him. Now, as you know, eventually Ansem, Seeker of Darkness is defeated and Riku is freed from his control in a literal sense, able to help Sora, Donald, and Goofy to seal the door. But despite Ansem's control being shaken in the literal sense, Riku is still haunted by what happened to him, and that feels pretty true to the experience too. You don't just suddenly get better after getting away from the people who are hurting you. In the Reverse Rebirth section of Chain of Memories, i.e. the secondary campaign of the game where you play as Riku, we see him quite literally confront his memories of the previous title. He sees the bedroom that Maleficent gave him in Hollow Bastion, and the boy is taunted about how he was tempted by the darkness that she offered him, how he cast away his home, his friends, and everything. When he asks this voice that he doesn't quite recognize to show him his friends, it simply questions if he truly wants to see them, once again rubbing salt in the wound about how he cast away the world he knew and the people that cared about him, all for the worlds outside that Maleficent and her darkness offered him. The same darkness he so proudly entered without fear before, that darkness that now represents regret for him. When Riku finally confronts his memory of Maleficent herself, she echoes the voice's sentiment that his heart is empty, and that the darkness is all that remains, and she even insists that Riku wanted her. With the context of how I'm analyzing this, that's really, really dark. To make matters sadder, Riku admits that he did at one point want Maleficent in his life, but that's not him anymore. He's moved past that point, and saying clearly here to her that she and her darkness have nothing for him anymore. He then declares that if all he can see here in this realm of memories are the people of the dark like her, he'll destroy every last one of them. And then the memory of Maleficent digs her knife in, really twisting it by stating that Riku must remember to add himself to that same list, due to him being tied to the darkness just like her. And he doesn't even deny this. You get a good vision of how Riku sees himself at this point with this conversation. Riku even calls himself his own worst enemy. It's clear that he blames himself to some degree, if not entirely, for what happened to him. And this all is made even worse by Ansem revealing himself to Riku after this fight with the memory, So much of Riku's story in Reverse Rebirth is him being confronted with his darkness and his past with it, his past mistakes and everything. From the previously mentioned memories of Maleficent, to Ansem appearing before him, to members of the organization like Vexen and Lexaeus and Zexion taunting him, to the most literal example of this being Riku Replica, or Repliku as I call him. Throughout all of this, Riku is forced to face his past actions again and again. He's constantly fighting back against all of it, but it's an ever-present element of the story. Zexion even vocally blames Riku for the destruction of Destiny Islands, clearly trying to get a rise out of him, as if Riku's desire to see the worlds outside of what he's always known was his fault, and that everything that came from it is his fault solely. Zexion even uses the visual of Sora to try and plunge him deeper into darkness, but he's able to bring himself above water and overcome the challenges of Castle Oblivion. But even after this, even after his declaration to walk the road to dawn, games like Days and KH2 show us that Riku isn't fully out of the woods just yet. He's still afraid of his own darkness. He's still letting his guilt and his self-hatred control him, and that paints his every action. He lashes out and is downright awful to Xion, who, if you look at it in a certain way, kinda represents both Sora and Kairi. Often, when people are struggling but not willing to be honest, choosing to bottle up their anguish and emotions instead, they end up lashing out at the people that they love, the people around them that are just trying to help. Another thing they'll do is isolate themselves, pushing away those who could help them out of fear of being a burden, or genuinely just believing that they don't deserve that love and support. In Days, we see Riku throw himself fully back into the darkness. He believes it's the only way to save Sora, and Riku's at a point where he believes that that's what's most important. He blames himself for everything that happened during KH1, even if he doesn't realize that's what he's doing, or he thinks he's overcome those feelings. The guilt of everything, of what he let happen to those around him, and the pain of what happened to him, all cause him to feel undeserving of love and redemption. He calls himself a castaway from the darkness and calls himself no one in KH2. What he's been through, what he's experienced, and the feelings teeming inside him as a result of all of that cause him to dehumanize himself. He didn't think he deserved the support of others, and that he had to be alone. He was so disgusted with himself that he felt undeserving of anyone. It's why it's so important that Kairi, my goat, stepped up and nudged him back towards them, giving Sora the chance to realize who he thought was Ansem Seeker of Darkness was really his buddy Riku, the friend he worried so much about and wanted to find. Riku falls into this habit of isolating himself and sacrificing things to help others. We see this in him giving up his body and days and plunging himself fully in the darkness. This guilt carries within him, and his inability to forgive himself causes him to rationalize these decisions, and it's heartbreaking. It's why Kairi and Sora letting him back in, even when he looks like Ansem, is so important. Even at his lowest, even when he feels like he's at his most unforgivable, they're still there for him, and offering him that support. At the end of KH2, when Riku and Sora defeat Xemnas and are left alone in the Realm of Darkness, Sora literally picks Riku up when he falls, and Riku allows himself to be supported, to not carry all the weight of his guilt and pain alone. Yes, Riku acted poorly while Maleficent and Ansem were influencing him, and those actions were his own, even if they were being influenced. And yes, Riku has this self-destructive habit of pushing away the people around him. And yes, Riku isn't instantly healed or okay after everything, but none of that means he isn't allowed support, that he isn't allowed to be loved. Speaking personally, my own experiences with being groomed led to me feeling very similarly to this. Like I didn't deserve love, that what I quote-unquote allowed to happen to myself was something I should take responsibility for and suffer the consequences of alone. Riku was just a kid who wanted to see the worlds outside his own. And grown adults took advantage of that and tried to shape him into what they needed him to be. And after getting away from those people, getting away from that influence, he tried so hard to push away all those uncomfortable feelings and memories. It ate away at him and caused him to see himself so poorly. I think that's why he felt like isolating himself and sacrificing himself were the solutions. It's his first idea in all these different situations because Riku doesn't see himself as worthwhile. He sees himself as beneath the people he loves and wants to protect. And it's how I felt about myself too. It's how I still feel about myself, even when I know that's not right. In Drink Drop Distance, we see Riku starting to actually internalize these ideals. We see a Riku who can impart advice on someone like Quasimodo about how you can't hide away from everything out of fear of what you think you are. That there are people who will love you for you, no matter what face you wear. And it's a moment that feels like Riku almost talking to himself just as much as he's talking to Quasimodo. His ending line in that scene about how he wishes he could take his own advice communicates so much to me. Even at this point, he still feels like this. He knows he's not worthless. He understands these concepts. He understands that he's not horrible and that he does deserve love and support, but actually feeling like it, even though he knows that, is a different story. He still struggles with his own self-worth, and that makes sense. The experience of being groomed can do that, because the people taking advantage of you whittle down at your sense of self. They make you dependent on them, like Maleficent did to Riku. They make you feel like you need them to mean anything, and they make you feel like you're nothing without them. Even after getting away from them, they can still haunt you just like Ansem haunts Riku. Even after accepting support from those around you and making the choice to grow past it, to overcome your self-hatred and guilt, you can still find yourself falling back into old habits like Riku does even in KH3, when he's at his most realized post all his experiences and trauma. It's not an easy thing to move past because that kind of experience, especially at such a young age, scars you. It has an effect on how you see yourself, how you view relationships, and fundamentally screws with so much in ways that people that do it will never understand. They didn't even think about what they were doing or how it would affect you because they were too busy thinking about themselves and how it would benefit them. It speaks volumes that post KH1, Maleficent doesn't even really think about or mention Riku. She never cared. And of course she didn't care. He wasn't like a son to her in the same way I wasn't anything of value to him. I was just someone vulnerable he saw he could use. While I still struggle to overcome everything that he did to me, he probably doesn't even think about me anymore because I never mattered to him. But just like Riku, I matter to people. Even if I didn't matter to one person I foolishly thought cared about me. And just like Riku, even after getting away from the people hurting me, I'm still carrying these scars. I still stumble, I still beat myself up over what happened to me, and I still feel like I'm an idiot forever trusting them when I know I'm not. And even though I carry all this guilt and anguish over what happened, even all these years later, I still feel like this. I know I can't let it control me. Just like Riku, I'll continue to walk the road to dawn, even if I'll stumble from time to time. And in the end, it's what I have to do for myself. And I guess to end this video, I just want to say that if you're like me, if you're carrying the pain, the grief, and the guilt of something like this that happened to you, then please know it can and will get better. You will get better. It won't be quick, and it could take so much time, but it's worth it. You are worth it. Until next time, may your hearts be your guiding keys.